It's no one's place to tell you whether or not you should have a kid or not,
but you two effeminate males are going to tell us whether or not we should have kids or not. And you're going to base that upon, I assume, conjecture based upon the fact that, having a kid is difficult and time-consuming. It puts strain on not only your personal life with your spouse or the individual you happen to have a kid with, but also your friends and your other social life as well. But I'm going to leave that up to you guys to say, because, well, quite frankly, I've already watched the majority of this video. I'm already well aware of how this turns out. So, without further ado, I'll allow these idiots to, well, quite frankly, be idiots.
A lot of people seem to act as though you'll be completely unfulfilled unless you have children.
So if, like us, your family and friends are always pestering about when you're gonna have a kid.
Oh, surely, yeah, there are people that'll do that. I have a couple in my family as well, but the fact of the matter is that much like them, you're doing the same thing, just on the other side of it. You're saying that you should never have children, which I don't understand how you can't be like. I've seen some of your videos. I'm well aware of the fact that you two are relatively well versed in sciences, and you're not stupid. So can't you be like saying this kind of with the cognitive dissonance? Be like, what we're saying is kind of hypocritical. It's kind of like, two sides of the same coin. But I'm assuming that you're just simply saying this from a strictly scientific point of view, looking at it based upon numbers and the fact that, the world is overpopulated, so the only way to cull the herd, so to speak, is to not have kids. But I don't know. I can't speak for you. So, moving on.
In a rut and you think that kids might bring you closer together, statistically, it will absolutely not. Research shows that marital satisfaction plummets after your first child, and 70% of couples experience a big slump in their love life. This is often due to clashing ideas of how to raise your child, along with sleeplessness.
Don't make a gay joke, don't make a gay joke, don't make a gay joke, don't make a gay joke. Oh, god fucking damn it. You guys are gay! Your family doesn't give a fuck whether or not you have a kid, because they know full well that you're not going to be able to actually impregnate somebody. Unless you do artificial insemination, which, quite frankly, obviously you don't want to do. Like, are you expecting me to feel like, I have some form of common ground with you as somebody that, I'm assuming you're talking to people that are heterosexuals here. I'm supposed to have some kind of common ground with you because I don't want to have kids. Actually, I don't want to have kids, and I actually find common ground with you in the fact that, I don't want to have kids, but here's the thing. I'm not going to tell other people that they can't. What kind of fucking comedy act am I watching here? I thought you guys were a fucking science channel. Jesus Christ. Moving on.
So yes, your kids will ruin your sleep. So in the first 2 years of your baby's life, survey data has found that you will lose 6 months of sleep, and you will only receive about 2.5 hours of continuous sleep each night. And too little sleep can lead to a myriad of health problems, such as slower reflexes, increased mental health issues, weakened immune system, heart disease, premature death, or the large life complication of being grumpy as fuck.
Every single one of those things was something that I could have told you without A, ever having a kid, or B, having even remotely mentioned the fact that it was scientific. Yes, having a child keeps you up at night. Yes, having a child is stressful, because having a child with another individual means that you both have to not only, raise the child, but have to agree on how to raise that child. But here's the thing, that I feel like a lot of the people that are amongst this SJW crowd, which you obviously are at this point, not having anything to do with your decision not to have kids or your decision to be gay, but just because, well, do I need a fucking reason at this point? But you make a broad assumption of everything based off of a statistic. Fair enough. Statistically, yes, it gets more stressful. But here's the thing: just because it's more stressful doesn't mean that it's not fulfilling. Hell, my job is stressful, but at the end of the job that I'm involved in, I can see what I've created. I can see the work that I've done coming to fruition and coming to fulfillment, and I view that as a beautiful thing that I, as an individual, as a human being, find not only fulfilling, but also integral to being a human being. I mean, you can't just sit around your house all day and do nothing and expect, to feel happy about your life. Wait a minute. I'm doing this as I'm sitting in a computer chair making a video. God fucking damn it, the hubris. Anyway, moving on.
It'll also cut into your wallet. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, if you're a woman with a child, you make 3% less than a woman that is childless. However, this is not true of men, who make an additional 15% if they have kids compared to those without. It has nothing to do with how hard you work, how many hours you work, or the job you have, but the double standard idea that men are breadwinners and women are caregivers.
Whoa, hold on, stop. Put on the fucking handbrake, full stop at the stop sign here, you unbelievable fuckwit. The wage gap myth has been debunked so many goddamn times. I don't feel the need to actually post fucking links in the description of this video as to why you are so inherently wrong. It's laughable. The fact of the matter is that some men, when they get involved with a woman and they have a kid and they become a father, they work longer hours to support the family. And some women, when they have kids, choose to stay home and be a mother. The key word in that statement that you unbelievably insufferable cunts of the SJWs don't seem to understand is choice. You have the choice to do that. That choice is there. Much like it's a choice if the woman in the relationship wants to go to work while the man stays at home. As long as the two individuals that are in the relationship agree to it, there is no need for you to stick your faggy little fucking nose in it. And you don't. Oh, man, this is the kind of stupidity right here that gives me fucking cancer. I swear to God. Anyway, moving on.
See fathers as committed and stable, whereas they see mothers as flaky and distractible. A study at Cornell found that when identical resumes were sent out, except one line was changed to show that they were members of the Parent-Teacher Association, women got half the amount of calls, while men actually received more calls. So maybe as far as securing a job and a good income is concerned, you should be a dad, just not a mother.
Another more obvious one is that kids are expensive. In the US of A, in 2015, on average, a baby would cost you $13,000 per year. That means by the time this child is 17, it will have cost you $233,000. And that does not include the amount of money going towards post-secondary education. Obviously, this average cost can vary, especially if your kid is throwing a fit on the friggin' floor for the sweet cereal, and you know what? To shut him up, you're gonna buy it. It's gonna cost you more, okay?
I can hear.
I was completely entirely ignoring the fact that women are more likely to sign up for the PTA, and therefore the larger number of people that were sending in this resume, which, by the way, he snuck that in, when they were members of the PTA. Yeah, you said that very fluently and without actually giving it any emphasis, I've noticed. But the fact of the matter is that you know that these people that are going for these jobs, when an employer looks at the resume and they find out, oh, this person's a woman, and they usually base that off the name, by the way, because when you send in your resume, you tend not to be like, I am a single 23-year-old female mother looking for a hot date. That's not how you fucking write a goddamn resume. Unless you did an application beforehand, much like most larger companies do, where you had to fill out a bunch of shit, including your race and your gender, amongst other things, which, by the way, adds a certain amount of ambiguity to the situation, considering how many of these women that are members of the PTA have prior convictions. Yes, it does happen. Women commit crime. It does happen. Fucking imagine that. And another thing, when it comes down to it, it might also just be like, oh, this person is a mother who's a member of the PTA. She's going to be spending a lot of time at the PTA. We're looking for somebody who's full-time, as in 40 hours plus a week in some situations. Well, actually, 32 is the starting point for full-time in New York State, but ambiguity aside, my point is still valid. Is that sexist? Maybe. But maybe not. Maybe it's just a common sense conclusion based, that the employer bases upon simply like, I want an individual who's here on time, on a regular basis, doesn't call out, doesn't have any other responsibilities other than work. Is it a shitty thing? Well, I mean, yeah, some people could view it as a shitty thing, but you know what? That's the way fucking business works, you unbelievable fucking idiot.
Mother.
Another more obvious one is that kids are expensive. In the US of A, in 2015, on average, a baby would cost you $13,000 per year. That means by the time this child is 17, it will have cost you $233,000. And that does not include the amount of money going towards post-secondary education. Obviously, this average cost can vary, especially if your kid is throwing a fit on the friggin' floor for the sweet cereal, and you know what? To shut him up, you're gonna buy it. It's gonna cost you more, okay?
I can hear.
Wow, imagine that. Having another human being in the house is fucking expensive. No fucking shit, dumbass! And I'm assuming here, I'm jumping to a conclusion for exercise, that you're probably the same people that think that open borders is a good thing, but you don't understand why people don't want it. Because just imagine you had a household and you opened your doors to everybody else that lived inside of that neighborhood to come in and use your house as they pleased. It would cost a lot of money. Am I right or am I wrong? According to you, I'm fucking right. Yes, children are expensive. But you know what? At the end of the day, a lot of people that have children, and my parents included, that actually, despite all of, my jackassery and whatnot, the thing that they tell me most commonly about having children is it's not about finances. It's not about what you have to do. It's about seeing your children grow up and become productive members of society under your own guidance and under your own fruition. Like, the due diligence of taking care of a child is incredibly difficult and takes a lot of time and creates a lot of effort, as you've actually pointed out through this whole video, but you don't seem to find the correlation between people that are happy to have kids because of the end result. And this comes down to a short-sightedness that I find in a majority of the generation that we call millennials, myself included, that we would rather take the shorter, much more selfish option rather than look at 10 years down the line about how we are going to be as people. But on a side note, these two guys, I gotta say something. The whole polo buttoned all the way up thing just makes you look like a fucking douchebag. And that goes for anybody, not just gay people. Just any person that I see with a fucking polo button all the way up, I immediately assume they're fucking assholes. That's just a bias on my own part, and I figure I had to point it out. Anyway, moving on.
Kids bring so much joy into our lives, right? Well, sometimes research does show that if you wanted to have kids and have them, your life satisfaction can increase, but no more than people who are childless by their own choice.
Once again, you're presenting an argument that isn't really an argument. We already are well aware of this fact that people that end up with kids that don't want them are unhappy. Yes, because you were not, expecting this to happen. That was not, actually it was a choice to have sex, you fucking idiot. Sex makes babies, newsflash. But that choice to have a kid was not something that you intended. And I like how he's like, people that have a kid by choice, big part of that entire statement, by choice, are no happier than people that don't have kids by choice. Yes, newsflash. Choosing what you want in life and having the option to choose those things makes people happy. Once again, this isn't anything surprising. To me, I'm watching this video and I'm over here and I'm like, these two idiots, I can't understand where they're expecting me to be all befuddled and confused by this. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit for a majority of the video that I watched. Also, another thing, that yellow shirt, dude, get rid of it. It looks terrible. Anyway, moving on.
It all can help the threats of overpopulation, such as mass starvations. Think about it from your carbon footprint. One kid in America is the equivalent of 106 kids in Haiti when it comes to how much carbon dioxide is produced in their life. So if you're trying to go green, you could go vegan, you could ditch your car, you could stop flying everywhere, or you could just not have a kid.
This video might be making it sound like we...
Here's my takeaway from this as I close out this video and all the country that happens to be happening and coming out of my mouth specifically right now. The funny thing about this is you guys aren't pointing out where the larger families are being created, because it's not in the United States. The average family in the United States is actually very small. So I think, if I remember correctly, about 1.5 kids per 2 adults, which, by the way, would cause a decrease in the population. So America, despite how much you assholes pretend it is not the problem. The problem is we have people in third world countries that almost literally breed like fucking rabbits. We have families in, Africa, families in Central America, families in parts of the Middle East, families in parts of Asia that fucking have 7 or 8 kids. And yes, that does cause overpopulation, but the problem is you're pointing the finger at the wrong group of people. And another thing is, you talk about going vegan and going green, when in reality, one of the greenest things to do is actually own a farm and actually produce all of your own product, because then it's not transported by airplanes or trucks or trains, which cause a multitude of other pollution if you really want to talk about it. They're not stored inside of large supermarkets that have to run refrigerators on a regular basis that cause a large amount of pollution. And on top of that, you're not driving your vehicle to the grocery store to get fucking groceries, you fucking absolute idiots. You can't present your arguments like this and expect people not to tear you apart for them based upon the core concept of, you should know better. I see you deal with statistics, but it's the same thing I tell younger kids when they're in school. Like, yes, you are being taught, but you're only being taught a half truth. Go out and seek the other half of the truth. Yes, first world nations create a lot of pollution, but, and there's a massive but here, third world countries don't create a lot of pollution because they haven't become industrialized. They didn't have the Industrial Revolution, and they haven't become civilized. So you have to deal with the other side of the situation where we can't allow the third world nations to become quote-unquote civilized and have an industrial revolution, because if they do, then they would create the same amount of pollution that we did back during our revolution. So keep minorities in the third world state, or allow them to become, like the rest of the Western world and most of Asia for that matter. But that's another topic for another time. And I am done rambling on about these two homosexuals trying to tell people that they shouldn't have kids, when in all actuality, they're never going to have kids, and they've already contributed their part of the narrative. The only thing they're trying to do is convince, men and women, assuming heterosexuals, that you shouldn't have kids because of obvious fucking reasons. You're not ready for a kid, don't have a kid. If you are ready for a kid with your significant other, don't let these dumb cunts dissuade you from making that decision, because quite frankly, if you are with somebody and you want to have a kid, it's your choice. That's what the glory of being in a fucking, Western world, it's a first world country. You're allowed to have choices, to make these decisions. These decisions are not being forced upon you, regardless of how much I try to tell you it is. Your decisions are your decisions, so make good ones. Anyway, I will be seeing you guys Tuesday with a response video that I've been working on for a while now, that I've been promising, but it will be coming out. So until then, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, and I will see you glorious cunts later.